beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down!
Getting reliable health information about the COVID-19 outbreak can be a lifesaver. Rumors and false information can help further spread the virus. To counter this epidemic, it is important to rely on information coming from professional and ethical newspapers, TV and radio channels, and news websites. Quality journalism is now more crucial than ever. During the COVID-19 outbreak, only trust official information sources and credible media outlets. Do not share unverified information. This is a message from UNESCO.
Radyo-Katipunan, 87.9 FM. Follow at radyo-katipunan in our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter.
Mamangha sa lalim at ganda ng ating kultura at diwang makabayan sa mga salita at pahina. Sa tulong ng mga guro at manunulat ng panitikang Pilipino, halina't tuklasin ang yaman ng ating panitikan, ang pamana ng ating lahi. Ito ang Sari-Sari, tuwing Miyerkules, 11:00 ng umaga, dito sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Iwasan ang pagkakaroon at pagkalat ng sakit na COVID-19. Palagiang maghugas ng kamay. I-check ang temperatura para sa lagnat. Umiwas sa matataong lugar. Iwasang hawakan ang mukha kapag hindi pa nakakapaghugas ng mga kamay. Iwasan muna ang pagyakap, beso-beso o paghalik sa ngayon. Maging maingat, maging ligtas.
Basta't laging handa at sama-sama, kaya natin to. Hatid sa inyo ng PCOO, DOH, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Jesuit Music Ministry, music that uplifts the soul. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer. Get your daily dose of inspiration through our music. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube.
Do you have concerns or problems about the school? Pag may dilema, huwag mag-alala.
Sabihin sa sango. Pag may dilema, huwag mag-alala.
Locate our boxes around campus and simply fill out the forms in the stations. Drop them in the box and boom, you're done. You can also fill out our forms online. This is a service brought to you by Your Sangu. Pag may problema, huwag mag-alala.
Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Calling on all young male professionals. Do you wish to live an extraordinary life? Are you tired of the routine and mundane and long for a dynamic, adventurous, and even dangerous life? Do you wish to make your life count and hope to make an impact long after you're gone? Do you wish to live a life of service to society, to country, and to dear Mother Earth? Then you are the one we are looking for. Consider the Society of Jesus. Join the Church's gallant army and turn your world upside down. Call the Jesuits Vocations Promotions Team 426-6101, Local 3406. Once again, 426-6101, Local 3406.
Palalimin ang kamalayan sa mga isyong napapanahon. Makisangkot at makiisa kasama ang simbahang lingkod ng bayan. Ang Social-Political Apostolate ng Kapisanan ni Jesus. Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan. Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin Mo, Beybeh! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo! Radyo Katipunan is now online. See our live feed on facebook.com/radyo-katipunan. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter at Radyo Katipunan and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Radyo Katipunan FM for more exclusive content. Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Patuloy pa rin ang laban natin sa COVID-19. And together, we can beat the solusyon.
B. Bawal walang mask.
I. Isanitize sa mga kamay. Iwas hawak sa mga bagay.
D. Umistansya ng 1 metro.
A. Alamin ang totoong impormasyon tungkol sa COVID-19.
Protektahan natin ang sarili at mga mahal sa buhay.
Beybeh! Beat the solusyon sa COVID-19!
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede. Mga isyung napapanahon ating pag-usapan.
Baka naman pwede.
Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa Baka Naman Pwede. Tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Feeling blue? Ever thought of looking into the bright side of things? Let us help you out. Join our light, engaging, and inspiring conversations with our Chaplains on Air. Hosted by Father Junji Bargayo and Father Henry Ponce of the Society of Jesus. Chaplains on Air. The chaplains are now in. Here on Chaplains on Air. Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Want to find out more about the famed org community of the Ateneo?
Yeah!
Wondering what projects and initiatives our student organizations are currently up to? Curious to hear the perspectives and motivations of the different people that make up the org community? Tara na't magkwentuhan! Kwentuhang MVP takes you to the vibrant and passionate organization community of the Ateneo de Manila. Tune in every Friday as we catch up with our student leaders and our organizations and find out how they're continually pushing forth with their advocacies. Kwentuhang MVP, taking the MVP to you.
Getting reliable health information about the COVID-19 outbreak can be a lifesaver. Yet, disinformation and rumors can spread just as fast as the virus itself. Now that many of us are spending much more time online, let's think critically about the information we are receiving and sharing, especially on the coronavirus. During the COVID-19 outbreak, only trust official information sources and credible media outlets. Do not share unverified information. This is a message from UNESCO.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan, the voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni
Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo!
Magandang hapon po, masayang Nobyembre sa inyo, Sir Jovi, sa at na nakikinig ng Lundagin Mo, Beybeh. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ito na naman po kami.
Exciting itong hapon na ito. Talagang...
para talaga tayong bumangon mula sa ating mga paggunita ng mga kaluluwa at mga santo. Di ho tayo nagkaroon ng programa noong nakaraang linggo. Yun po ay undas. At ngayon po tayo pumapasok sa buwan ng Nobyembre sa ating palatuntunan. Isa na naman pong hapon ng
academic break. Tapos sa Katipunan, UP, Ateneo, academic break.
Academic break, pero hindi naman hindi. Kami kasi talagang academic break kasi natapos ang semester talaga namin. So yung iba pala, kahit hindi pa buo yung semester nila, nag-break. Kami kala namin parang sinadya sa amin. Yung pala, kami ang nagulat ng academic break ng iba. Kasi kala namin, sa amin it was natural because it really ended one grading period, no? So yan, so lahat buwabalik ngayong Lunes.
Break.
Oo. Ngayon, buwabalik ang lahat ngayong Lunes. Yung ibang hirap bumangon kasi balik daw sa pagtuturo at sa pag-aaral.
Alam mo, palagay ko sinabutahe ako kasi nawala yung internet, ngayon lang siya bumalik.
Bisa na tayo.
Yung topic. Joke.
Oo nga, sabi nga natin, kahit nang hirap-hirap ibangon para tayo naalimpungatan mula sa health break, ang unang paksa natin ay tungkol sa ating pagsusulong ng ating pag-aaral. Kahit na parang napakahirap pag-usapan niya pagkatapos ng mga mahabang pahinga na parang ayaw pang bumalik sa paaralan. Pero ngayon, ang ating unang paksa, bubulaga sa atin na isang malinamnam na paksa at ako'y nananabik.
Natutulog ang kasamaan.
Kasamaan ba?
There's no rest for the wicked.
Ang pamagat ng aming palabas ngayon ay Kontrobersya sa Pamantasan. Pamantasan, sorry. Nakasulat lang. Kontrobersya sa Pamantasan. Hindi ko po sinasadya yung slip of the tongue na yun. No? Kontrobersya sa Pamantasan. At ako mismo ay nananabik maunawaan ba't yun ang ating pamagat. Alam niyo po, aminin ko po, ako madalas ang umiisip ng pamagat. Pero ito pong pamagat na ito ay tatapon ko agad kay Sir Jovi Miroy maya-maya. Bakit ito ang pamagat na akma? Pero siguro magkakaroon tayo ng bakas ng pinag-uusapan niya dahil ang ating pinakapaksa sa ilalim ng pamagat na yon ay ang academic freedom. Wow! Academic freedom. Parang nung nakaraang taon, narinig ko na yan, sir, pinag-uusapan natin nung nauso yung red tagging.
Last year with Dean Mel Santa Maria.
Oo nga. I remember. So now, we're talking about...
Mas yata ngayon, mukhang big time ang ating mga panauhin ngayon, Sir Ron.
Wag na natin patagalin. So, Sir Jovi, ang ating pinagpipitagan ng panauhin ay pinagmamalaki naming nagpa-unlock sa amin ay, narito po, dalawa po sila. Sir Jovi.
Unahin muna natin ang ating katuwang na na tenista at bedista. No? Pareho ka nag-aral sa San Beda High School.
At of course, Philo Major.
Philo Major, Ateneo Law School Batch 95, AB Philosophy 91 at yung kanyang anak ay kagagraduate lang this year. Siya din ang executive publisher of San Anselmo Publications Incorporated. Alright. Si Attorney Marvin Aceron. Hi, Marvin.
Ay, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Masaya naman ako na imbitahan ako dito sa Lundagin Mo, Beybeh.
Ano bang field mo sa law? Intellectual property? Hindi naman.
Medyo tawag nila sa opisina namin boutique law firm. Pero ang pinaka ginagawa ko ngayon, arbitration.
Arbitration.
And then I do some corporate work and as I said earlier, I have some clients who are actually schools.
Alright.
So I this kind of topic, academic freedom, medyo na pag-uusapan namin ito every now and then with the schools that
Kailangan na talagang pag-usapan at lalong patalasin ang kahulugan. At yung ikalawa, Sir Ron, ako din na magpapalala.
Ako na. Ang kalawa ay salamat sa kanyang pagpapaunlak. Tayo ay makakasama natin ngayong hapon ang Chancellor ng UP na si Chancellor Michael Tan. Maraming salamat po, Chancellor.
Pati kang columnista din ng Inquirer.
At pati kang columnista rin ng Inquirer.
At antropologo. Katuwang ni Sir Ricky.
Ganun ba? Ngayon ko palang makakaulayo si Chancellor, no? Pero narinig ko ang kanyang pangalan. Chancellor, magandang hapon po sa inyo.
Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat at qualification lang former Chancellor ng Diliman. May bago na kasi. Up to last year.
Pero para lang po, ako siguro dahil ako'y nanliliit ngayon, ang tatawag ko na lang sa ating mga panauhin ay Attorney at si Chancellor. Si Attorney at si Chancellor.
Marvin na lang ako.
Interview natin si Chancellor.
Kailan ba sa korte?
Nga pala. Sige. So yun po ang ating paksa ngayon. No? Ako, narinig ko dati, ako ay sa basic education naman po ako. Ang narinig ko ay education law. Yan yung mga narinig kong medyo may mga ilang kontrobersya. Pero ngayon, kontrobersya sa pamantasan. So sa college, no? At sa ano po ba ito? Ano ba tong kontrobersya sa pamantasan? Sir Jovi at sa ating mga panauhin, no? Bakit parang hinog
natin 'to pag-uusapan?
Bakit hinog na hinog pag-usapan ito sa panahong ito ngayon? Ano bang konteksto nitong kontrobersya sa pamantasan na ito at academic freedom, no? Mama.
Baka si Chancellor ang pwedeng magpaliwan ng konteksto ngayon ng usapin.
Saan ba tayo mag-umpisa dito? No? Kasi pwedeng widest context na talagang papasok ng pamahalaan. No? Kasi baka ang naisip ko, sige, kung ano ang nangyayari ngayon, no? yung kaya nagiging controversy ulit, ito nga yung withdrawal sa ilang mga state universities sa Northern Luzon. Nag-withdraw sila ng mga ilang mga libro galing nasa library. At ito ang mga publications ng National Democratic Front. No? Pero itong mga dokumento na it was actually approved by the Philippine government kasi lumabas ito nung peace talks nga. No? At ang lawak ng circulation nito, no? It was very, very openly circulated. And substantive, no? For example, yung proposed reforms ng NDF, no? Para maintindihan ng publiko. No? So ang controversy ngayon is, did the universities have the right or did they do right? Sige, maging philosophical tayo dito in withdrawing the books. No? Ang nag-react ang UP Diliman, ang what's the term that's called here, yung vice chancellor, the chancellor and the vice chancellors, no? At ilang mga deans, and then ang School of Library Science, malakas ang protesta nila, no? Tapos sumunod na rin ang Book Development Association of the Philippines. So lumalawak na ito. No? Kaya ang issue dito tungkol nga sa academic freedom, do universities have the right to withdraw books from a library?
Para lang po sa pag-unawa ng
library.
ating mga ilang tagapakinig, ano po ba meron sa NDF books na makes
National Democratic?
Ano po yung meron doon? Na palagi ito ang mga sinasabi doon ay ano po ba ang kakatwa or controversial na para pigilin ng paggamit noon ng mga ng ilang pamantasan sa norte?
Yeah. Sayang wala nga ang kopya ko, no? I said it was very widely circulated. Pero yung nabasa kong mga comments ng mga heads ng state universities, baka daw ma-influensya ang mga kabataan, no? One of them actually said incite to violence. No? I'm familiar with the yung NDF publication na umikot. This is really about changes, reforms that were needed. No? And there is no call to arms there. No? But that begs the question, even if there was a call to arms, pagpasok mo sa library, Ateneo Library, maraming mga libro sa loob na may call to arms.
Call to arms.
Is that sufficient grounds to withdraw?
Oo nga.
Old Testament.
Yan ang ano dito. Previously, under Marcos, books by Mao, by Marx, by Lenin, lahat yan ay naban as well. No?
Just War.
Underground. But I don't think it was ever withdrawn.
Yes, wala po.
Those were very, very explicit. But as far as I know, they were never withdrawn from the library. Okay? So this is unprecedented na. No, it was banned by the dictatorship na hindi pwedeng magdala ng subversive materials. No? Bata pa kayo, ano? I'm turning 70 next year. No? And so naabutan ko yung ano.
Baby face naman ni Chancellor.
Yung panahon yan. Ano? And we were subjected to book bag searches, right? Pagpasok mo sa building, may guard na nag-ano, looking for subversive materials. And subversive materials is very wide, no? From manifestos to books by Mao. Ano? We had a very thriving circulation. I remember si Professor Feria, what's the name of nanay ni Monica, no? She was actually bringing in Peking Review and other publications from China, and we were circulating it underground. No? Kasi pati yan bawal. No? Everything that came from China ay bawal. Anything with Marx, Lenin, and that. But what was in the library was kept in the library. Okay? Ang nangyari din is when the dictatorship began to ban magazines, no, like Far Eastern Economic Review, pagpasok mo sa main live, kung maghanap ka ng Far Eastern Economic Review between 1972 and 76, wala kang makitang kopya. No? Kasi naban nga. No? So, but the library itself remained a preserve of academic freedom in the sense na kung anong nandito na, it stays. It's unthinkable that you will withdraw a book or a publication from the library.
So, Chancellor, just to clarify,
and that's the gist of it.
The withdrawal came from the librarian or from the administrators of the universities?
Okay, good question nga. No? Apparently, may memo ang regional head ng CHED, Commission on Higher Education, instructing the universities to remove. The language is vague there. But the instructions were coming from, or rather the advice was coming from our favorite agency, the National, what do you call that again? I think I blocked it out of my 70-year-old brain. Yung anti-communist, whatever.
Okay.
Ang full name niya, our attorney should know.
Anti-Insurgency Commission.
You know which one I'm referring.
I think it's something to do with NTF-ELAC, something like that. Medyo
yes, the ELAC thing.
Yeah, parang ganun.
Yeah. So not
even
nila.
CHED.
No?
It didn't come from CHED.
No, the CHED regional head did issue it, but using advice from that ELAC group. No? So you can see here how napaka-entangled yung ano eh. It's a mess because it comes from outside. I think it makes it worse that you have a. I'm trying to be polite here. How do you call ELAC? No? ELAC is totally non-academic. No? It's a totally ignorant agency. I'm being polite there. No? These are ignorant people dictating on CHED and on an academic institution of what you can have in your own. These are these are people who are exemplars of, wow, exemplars are a good word. They are examples of the ignorance that comes about precisely because we lack academic freedom. If they had been raised properly in an environment of academic freedom, they would not be doing this. Right?
All right. So yun na context.
Yeah. So, yun pala, no? So, ang academic freedom ay, kala ko, ang academic freedom is you're free to choose what you can teach. Yun pala, you're free to choose what you can learn. You get what I mean? Kasi what you can teach is a function of the administrators, but what you can learn, lalo na sa pamantasan o sa college, ay yung paraan ng ay mga landas ay pwedeng piliin dapat ng mga mag-aaral. Hindi mo dapat ipagkait ang mga landas na yan hangga't kung meron na.
So yung agency is called National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict.
Sorry po, unheard of. I never heard. First time.
Thank you for looking them up.
NTF-LCAC. It's a mouthful. Yes. Kahit na yung acronym, mouthful na, no? National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. At sinasabi nga ni Chancellor na yung precisely the reason bakit merong mga ganyan palagay yung ating task force na yan ay siguro wala ring academic freedom noong sila noong panahon nila. Okay.
And history has proven people like that are the ones who ban the insurgency. They are the greatest promoters of insurgencies. Ulit-ulit sa kasaysayan, whenever you ban academic freedom and free thought, you, in very simplest terms, you make it more attractive.
Yes, give it more reason too.
I don't think there were that many people who read those NDF documents except academics na. Now there will be a demand, no? And they are
parang mga banned books din yan sa listahan.
Being uploaded now. I can tell you that indeed.
Yes, medyo sige sir, Attorney
Marvin. Dagdag lang Ron, sige. Marvin muna. Later I just wanted to clarify something about
ko lang, sir, freedom. I-contextualize ko lang yung academic freedom. There's a Supreme Court case that defined academic freedom, and I sent the link to the chat group earlier. And ironically, it's about the Loyola School of Theology. No? But in that case, the Supreme Court, through Justice Enrique Fernando, quoted a definition of academic freedom by this professor, Sidney Hook. Medyo ano rin siya medyo si Sidney Hook medyo controversial din yan kasi parang his basis of definition of academic freedom was used to justify McCarthyism. Anyway, so Sidney Hook defines academic freedom as it is the freedom of professionally qualified persons to inquire, discover, publish, and teach the truth as they see it in the field of their competence. It is subject to no control or authority except the control or authority of the rational methods by which truths or conclusions are sought and established in these disciplines. So it covers the inquiry, the discovery, and the publication and the teaching of the truth. And it's only controlled by rational methods of the schools itself.
Yes. Pwede ang inquiry kahit yun ang library. Wala naman nagtuturo doon. Nagbabasa lang yung mga tao doon.
Yes, but in a way, siguro mamimiloso po lang ako. Yung pilosopong kami nga, hindi yung malalim na pinimilosopo. So, paano ito mga sinasabi nilang, kanyari kung meron namang mga publications or mga materials na ang sinusulong naman ay sinasabi nilang revisionist history. Kunyari ganun. Pati ba yun kailangan din bahagi ng academic freedom? Kung nandyan na, di hayaan natin nandyan. At para pag-usapan at pag-aralan ng mga tao.
Tama.
Buti nga. So wala talaga siyang itinatangi dapat, no? Pati yung gusto mong ituro, pati yung gusto mong iwasan, kailangan bahala yung mga nag-iisip na mga mag-aaral na makasalamuha lahat ng yan at papag-isipan. Pero balik ako dun sa isang sinasabi dati. Ang tanong ko po, isa pang philosopher, hindi ba parang academic freedom ngayon ay medyo, hindi ko alam kung anong term ang dapat gamitin, parang in a way irrelevant kasi so, wag niyo akong sutukin, wag niyo akong batuin ng kamatis. Kasi sabi ko yun dahil lahat naman ay hindi, ang dami kasi ngayon na nakakalat talaga. Sabi nga ni Chancellor, no? Lilitaw lahat yan at hahanapin. Kasi di rin totoo na kailangan mo pang ipaglaban yan. Parang kunyari sabihin, kasi makikita at makikita naman na ng lahat. At it's not as if sa library naghahalongkat ang mga ilang mag-aral. Oo, may Google na at lahat. At yan nga, sabi nga ni Chancellor, nabanggit yan ngayon, naku po, i-upload na lahat yan, makikita yan lahat. So in a way, may sariling natural natural ba tawag doon? Cause and effect na relationship yung pagbaba at biglang lalo siyang sisikat dahil ibinan at lalong maraming babasa. So, ano po pero may mahalaga pa rin na ingatan at ipaglaban ng academic freedom. Ano pong masasabi niyo rito kahit na meron isang palagay na
tinatanong mo, Ron, hindi siya relevant kung hindi may kalayaan naman talaga tayo.
Parang gano'n. Exactly. Sorry. Thank you, Sir Jovi, sa pagpaplansya ng aking gusto sabihin. Yes. Bigla ko lang naisip, no? Kasi nga, nakalat din siya lalo pa nga. Baka nga yung kabilang epekto ang mangyari, no?
Pinaglalaban dyan.
Yeah. So, sa akin, I think it's the principle. Gusto ko mas maunawaan yung ngayon, yung prinsipyo behind academic freedom, why it should be protected, why it should be pursued, and even enhanced if that's possible. So, sige po.
Sino?
Kahit sino po. Kahit sino po sa atin.
Ako muna, sir. Simple lang, ang eskwelahan kasi, just a qualification, academic freedom is guaranteed only in institutions of higher learning. So, hindi kasama sa context ng Constitution yung grade school at high school. University lang. Okay? So that's
technological vocational schools, wala din academic freedom doon.
It's only
beauty schools wala din.
Wala doon.
Art schools, kapatid. Art schools.
Higher learning, hindi.
Higher learning lang. Alright.
Okay. And may context din siya kung bakit higher learning. Kasi nga, it's related to the quest for truth. No. But the point that we should emphasize is, it's a guarantee of the Constitution, but it does not have any limits. But it has limits. In other words, may mga limitasyon siya that defines hanggang saan siya. Halimbawa, yung academic freedom, kung ang eskwelahan ay eskwelahan ng mga rebelde o yung mga anarkista who advocates the overthrow of the government, I don't think that will pass the test of rationality. Siyempre, kung ang tinuturo dyan, paano mambomba ng mga gobyerno o mambomba ng mga tao para isulong ang isang agenda, hindi po pwede yan. Medyo may limit yan. At yun ang maganda dito, no? Kung hanggang saan mo i-define ang freedom at yung limitasyon ng estado. Dito sa issue ng mga libro, maliwanag na medyo ipit. Kasi libro lang naman yan di ba? And then these books, you can see them on the internet. No? In fact, if you make people read this book, you might actually convert them against these books. Kasi minsan mahirap siya intindihin. No? Before our show started, I looked up the book of John Masison, yung National Democracy. And then, ang unang 3 pages, puro jargon. Sabi ko, ano ba to? Kailangan ko pang mag-group discussion.
Ano ba yung kwento dyan ni Father Tabora?
Yeah, tinuro siya ni Father Tabora.
Parang na yun na simula ng aklat ni Father Ferios.
So parang i-define mo rin kung saan ang limit ng academic freedom, but in the context of our society, kailangan ang Supreme Court natin, kung magkakaroon ng kaso, ang magsasabi kung hanggang saan yun o hindi. Yun ang sagot ko sa sagot ni Ron. Importante siya kasi syempre yung mga tao ngayon ang mag-define kung hanggang saan
panahon na para ito ay pwede na ba silang ihabla itong NTF-ELAC na ito? Pwede silang ihabla ng mga grupo ng mga librarian, ng mga...
Kasi unang-una, wala na yung anti-subversion law That was repealed. There's a law before that said CPP, NPA ka, definitely pwede ka na ikulong. And then anything subsidiary doon, may dala kang dokumento nila, etc. Pwede ka nang ikulong, kasuhan. Wala na yung batas na yun So ano yung batas para pigilan? Ano yung dahilan kung ba't mo tatanggalin yung mga libro na yan?
So parang
those books is not a crime.
So ito ba, with the risk of being hated by some people, so parang obsolete na rin tong NTF-ELAC kung wala nang gano'n.
Ano ko nga kung anong basis sa batas
for existence.
Wala na yung,
except the books were really withdrawn already, di ba?
Kala kasi na executive department yung may hawak ng poder
Yeah.
And in fact, nung kanina lang din, nakita ko yung discussion ni si Mr. Attorney Danny Concepcion and then si Senator De La Rosa, nung iniipit na sa discussion ng budget, and then sabi ni Senator De La Rosa, bakit dyan sa UP, alam nyo naman na nagre-recruit yung mga tao para maging NPA, bakit yung pinapayagan? Di ba? And then sumagot sabi ni Mr. Danny Concepcion, alam mo sir, hindi alam, matagal na hong balita yan na nire-recruit yung mga tao dito, pero wala pa ho akong nakita. Pangalawa, kung may nagre-recruit po dyan, mga matanda na ho mga tao dito, more than 18 years old. They're old enough to decide for themselves. Because that's the essence of academic freedom. You know, people are taught these things, but they are free to reject them or accept them.
So, hindi ba ang dahilan kung bakit sa higher learning mayroon academic freedom?
Yes, of course. Oh, syempre.
Yung mga bata.
They're presumed to have the faculty of reasoning and thinking and discernment on whether they're just being used from agenda. Diba?
Chancellor.
But I'd pick up, that's where I'd pick up. Yung kaya sinasabi natin academic freedom, it's so important even if those books will be available on the net. Ang punto dito is we are talking about learning institutions and a library, a repository of knowledge. No? Whether you agree with what's in the books or not, the fact is the library must have the materials. And it is in the context also of the university that umaabot ng ano dito, no? Yung discernment and synthesis, which are supposed to be higher order mental facilities, faculties na ide-develop. So it is in the university where these have to be developed, and that's why it's so important that the libraries are kept sacred. No? Kontikan din dito dagdag. Even before all the constitutions came up with this, no, the concept of academic freedom goes back to the 12th century. No? Ang unang-unang university in the West was the University of Bologna. And it was established actually by people associated with the Catholic Church. No? But from the very beginning, they issued I had to actually put it, Constitutio Habita. No? It was issued there from the beginning to guarantee students. It was a guarantee for students that they could travel from one place to another in the pursuit of knowledge without fear of persecution by ecclesiastical authorities or by secular political authorities. Ang ganda ng concept. 12th century, they saw the importance. You could not learn if you were afraid that you would be, pwede kang ikulong at ano. And that takes us back to our time now. Ako nga, being a martial law, not a martial law baby, which made me younger, but every day going to school with the backpack and worrying na baka ma-check at baka may makitang, because we did not have definitions of what was subversive except to say that Enigma was anti-government, and that was so open. It was so arbitrary. Naabutan ko rin yung every time you would read newspaper articles, there was a raid, an encounter, voluminous subversive documents were seized in the raid. And you know what some of those documents were? Because I was involved in health programs in the 1970s and 80s. Books on primary health care, books on acupuncture were considered subversive because they were being used by the New People's Army. So can you imagine how
Jay didn't bit.
Yan ang naging problema ko bilang chancellor, because we never publicized this. We wanted to protect the students, but we had students who were harassed by the military simply because they were in rural areas. That was subversive enough. And then their notebooks were seized. We had a student who was researching on languages. Her notebooks were seized. The military said this was subversive material. Okay. And then there's another group that went in. They were, I think, from education, and the fact that they were teaching teachers there. Nagtanong ang military na, bakit nandito kayo? Sabi na, kasi nagtuturo kami sa mga teachers here to improve their teaching, and that was subversive as well. You see, so this is the point about academic freedom. When you can no longer teach, when you can no longer have books in your library, Makakatakot, even under Marcos, we did not have this kind of arbitrariness. No?
Correct.
That's what's scaring people, I think. No one ever withdrew books from the library. This is unprecedented for the Philippines.
Actually, just to add, si Jovi and I went to San Beda High School. When I was in high school, I was 83 to 87. So in between the revolution. The revolution happened in 86. 83, I was reading Conjugal Dictatorship from the library of San Beda. Okay lang nun. Diba? It's no problem.
Doorstep.
Oh, but parang, so, and then I also read those other books, yung Communist Manifesto. They were selling them. It's a red book na gano'n. And then, syempre, I was in high school. Pagbasa ko ng first sentence, actually, first paragraph, ang haba, ganun kahaba. Ay, mahirap basahin. Tinabi ko na lang.
Kasi, ang logical step? Tatanggalin ang Communist Manifesto sa National Bookstore.
Exactly.
Oo, parang, everything is available, no? Parang Ako naman, naintindihan ko na ng malinaw itong academic freedom. Pero, meron pa ako isang tanong, na pilosopo pa rin, no? Pero merong bawal, di ba? Kahit sa college level, o wala? Na mga babasahin.
Ako may isa ding
smart. Pwede ba yun?
Meron din ako isang Marvin.
Yes,
sa PMA, which is a higher learning institution, walang academic freedom doon o may academic freedom? Sa PMA.
Dapat meron.
Sa military college?
I presume meron, sir. Kasi it's a degree.
Pero mas mahirap yung sagot.
BS Military Science, they give you a degree, BS Military Science. And I presume if you want to study how to defeat communism, you have to study the philosophy behind it. Di ba? So
exactly,
you should be able to study the communist movement. It should be part of your political science subject. Otherwise, you'd be stupid just fighting for capitalism without knowing what the enemy is. Diba? So I guess they should study those books also, even in the
the demonization of communists. Parang throwback naman masyado. I mean, throwback.
Ito.
Yeah, ako nga coming from the basic education, doon ako nahihirapan pa kahit naiintindihan ko na na lahat pwede. Kaya sabi ko pati smart pwede. Kung if it's existing.
Sa Rizal Library.
Meron. Binanyan.
Napag-uusapan din lang ang mga library.
Pero yes. So, tanong ko sa kanila, kahit hindi totoo yon, then dapat open doon, no? Lalo na kung alam mo namang control yun ng college and mga 18 years old and above. Ano ba?
Doon sa if we follow the definition proposed by Sidney Hook, there's control or authority, but rational methods of which truths or conclusions are sought and established in these disciplines. In other words, yung validity pa rin yan and invalidity are tested based on criteria of the institution. So for example, kung SMAT yan, sasabihin ng librarian, sayang yung space ko dito. Nagbibigay ko ba sa SMAT? Ganun kakapal. I should put something else instead of using that money to buy that book.
Yeah.
Take that in. May ganung klaseng control. Pero autonomy yun, based only on the rational institutions, yung kung ano rin yung rational ng institution to protect itself, di ba?
But in this case,
so hindi ba yun pwedeng gamiting dahilan na autonomy namin yan, na kami isang rational institution, we should be allowed to distill our collection?
The universities in question are state universities, right?
Yeah.
Kasi kahit pa sabihin, this is the fact of life. The state institutions, they get their funding from the government. And if the government says, pag di mo ginawa ito, hindi kita bibigyan ng pondo, anong gagawin ng institution yun? And of course, we don't know if that is one of the compulsions that were used by this government to make these institutions follow.
Pero siguro, sir, our Attorney Marvin,
yes,
siguro
sir,
yung CHED ang dapat hindi yung isang institution na walang kinalaman sa edukasyon.
Yeah.
Diba?
Which is true, di ba? Well, we're all against these guys. Kaya lang, problema mo pag sabi nga ng kasi ang may kasabihan nga, kapag nag-elect kasi ng presidente, bit-bit na lahat ng mga barkada niya, all the POCs, di ba? Ng mga
Pero di ba
at ng grupo niya doon, ilalagay niya kung saan at may mga mawawala makakarating sa mga eskwelahan. Di ba? At pag nakarating sa eskwelahan, kung ano man yung katangahan na bit-bit nila sa buong institusyon. And that is our problem. Because one of those POCs created this NTF, LCAC, who created this ruling, who disseminated over the other barkadas, and now they're implementing this thing.
Yun na nga. Si Chancellor, ano yung sa mga tanong, Sir Ron? Ano yung tanong mo, Sir Ron?
Marami akong tanong. Yung sabi ko nga, pwede ba yan? Tinatanong ko, wala talagang bakuran? Parang ganon. At saka may reaction din lang ako. May bakuran din. Pero hindi kaya yun ang gawin nilang katwiran, yung bakuran na sinet nila autonomously. Thereby, sabi ko nga kanina, I'm distinguishing between freedom of the educators and freedom of the learners. So, para baka mamaya, freedom of the educator naman ang sinasabi nila, hindi freedom of the learners. So yun nga, baka mamaya ang kanilang katwiran ay hindi in our distillation of the materials, this is our decision. Pero nasagot na ni Attorney Marvin yun eh. Yes, sige po. Chancellor.
Ang tanong kasi dito is, when I said may bakuran nga, partly it's the budget, no? But it still keeps boiling down to ano ang learning value ng material na yan. And that is why we would not have SMART. Okay? Unless you feel that there's learning value. No? I mean, I watch porn with my son to tell him that this is all nonsense. It depicts women as not just as objects. And we go into long discussions here. No? And I don't think it's the place in the university to be discussing porn in that sense. No? Pero alam mo, may gray line din tayo. My first 2 years kasi were with the Jesuits as well. No? And I remember I was in Ateneo when they banned an issue of, do we call it Gaidon or Gidon?
Gaidon.
The Gaidon nga, no? The Gaidon, we did call it Gaidon. And this is how far back we go. No? I was in Ateneo the year when there's an issue of Gaidon that showed 2 copulating dogs, okay? And the priests were furious. No? They banned the issue, no? But I asked the student to check. Sabi niya, it is in the library. I said, oh my goodness, that's good. They banned it from us, but they at least put it in the library for posterity. And I believe that has learning value, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you wouldn't call copulating dogs smut, right? But that is precisely something that can be discussed with students. Do you think now, in retrospect, should they have banned it in 1970? No. That is why we have materials in and then of course there's so much of the stuff in the art collections there. No? In another era that would have been considered smut, in our era, no one would blink twice, no, looking at the stuff there. No? Kaya ano yung art schools kanina binanggit ninyo hindi kasama. The original purpose too of academic freedom, there are 2. No? First, it's to protect students who are studying to be lawyers. No? They were looking at Roman law, and they wanted to be assured that they could continue doing that, because the students were interested in going back to the classics, no? To Roman and Greek, and that was actually dangerous at that time because there were
talking about
fanatical ecclesiastics.
Talking about smut.
So it was both. No? It was the lawyers and the philosophers were in danger of being kept hostage now because they were going back to the classics, which were pagan, right? And then, of course, the art. No, that was dangerous to all these nude statues and all that. No? And so the universities were actually saying, we are protecting you, no, to research, to inquire, and to discover rationally all of these things. No? And so the ecclesiasticals followed it. No? Sa totoo lang, I can tell you, the ecclesiasticals had very good collections. When during the Spanish colonial period, UST kept many of the banned books. I mean, people were not allowed to read books, but they kept it. No? I suspect San Beda has a good collection as well. If you were to go back, the I think the priests felt they were mature enough to handle it, but they weren't sure about their students. But at least they allowed the libraries to have them, right?
Isa pa akong tanong ko, sa command responsibility naman, nakirinig ko sinasabi Sir Jovi, bakit ba kasi sinusunod ang NTFL-CAC? Hindi ba ang talagang rito yung mismong eskwelahan? Pero sinasabi ni Attorney ni Marvin na yung eskwelahan baka mamaya nakatali rin ang kamay nila. O hindi ba yung CHED mismo? Sino bang kailangan nag-gatekeep dito or the opposite, no? Na hindi naglagay ng gate. Parang sino po ba ang command responsibility ng dito sa pagpapanatili at pagtataguyod ng academic freedom?
Answer, no? I think it's a certain mindset na ang gobyerno talaga mapaniil. I mean, if kung yung konsepto natin ng gobyerno ito ay tatay na, ito yung
hinahayaan kang lumipad at sa papawid at ito lang yung mga pangarap.
Hindi naman yun ang ibig sabihin ng gobyerno. Hindi ko alam. I'm a medievalist kung saan nagsimula ang academic freedom. But sa akin, hindi yun ang role ng gobyerno. Pero Atty. Marvin.
Well, ako medyo biased ako kasi alam ko kung sino yung CHED head ngayon, UP Vanguard. Why is he there? It's because he's UP Vanguard. It's his connection to the president. They are the same group that wants to bring back ROTC. It's the same group. So no wonder this thing about purging books, it's part of that rightist agenda. So what can you do? You have to replace this president. Find a more liberal president.
Very good. I agree totally. And I would just, what we were doing in UP, we were all constantly pointing out, precisely because we are a government institution, we have to defend academic freedom kasi pera ng bayan ito. No? And we are not going to squander the money of taxpayers on stupid things like banning books and all. No? I mean, they were trying to control who we could invite. Remember, I brought in the Lumads of Mindanao. No? That was very controversial. They said that was a bunch of subversives again. I said, even if they were subversives, this is a national university. They have a right to be here. Okay? And our students learn so much from them, not on politics, but on ancestral domain and other issues of that type.
Yes. So Sir Ron, does that answer your question?
So, yun nga, ang narinig kong sagot ay pili tayo ng ibang presidente. Pero sabi ko, may bang opisina na at least pwede sabing, ops, pag natin gawin yan, wala bang pwedeng gumanon? Parang kasi, para sa akin, may ngipin ba yung NTF-LCAC kung sakali ating CHED ay stricto?
Siguro pwede rin tanungin si Marvin whose work is with these schools, no? So meron talagang parang ginagamit nila itong mga state universities bilang isang, ano ba ang pwedeng itawag dyan? Na yung agenda nila, isusulong muna nila sa mga eskwelahan o ano talaga ang agenda? ROTC ang agenda o yung eskwelahan na kailangang hawakan? Kaya mahalagang tanungin lahat ng eskwelahan, lalo na ng private schools. Kasi,
well, okay to. Hindi ko nakikita yung grand plan pero nakita ko yung movements nila. No? One clearly is that they're trying to bring back the ROTC law. That's one. The second one is, maliwanag to, purging the books of these state schools. Of course, they haven't touched the private schools. But the moment they touch the private schools, I will file a case immediately. Kasi tatamaan na yung mga eskwelahan na in-advisean ko. Of course, I'm going to use the Supreme Court decision on academic freedom. You cannot touch these schools that advocate that use the academic freedom, which not necessarily advocate the overthrow of the government. Kasi sabi ko, ang problema kasi dito, I will have to recognize somewhere that if you have a school that actually teaches the overthrow of a government, yung brass tacks, pati may kurso on for example, how to start a civil war, yung mga ganon. And then teaching them brass tacks. Medyo the state will have to protect itself. may mga batas tayo na magsasabi hindi po pwede yan. Why?
Pero si Machiavelli. Si Machiavelli talaga.
No.
May mga libro siya.
In the context of that, libro lang naman yan pero kung may training pa, kung baga, paano ba gumawa ng
Atty. Marvin, nasa katekismo na pwedeng tumuto lang bayan kapag tirano yung nasa gobyerno.
True. But what I'm saying is, in the context of statecraft, gawaan ng Estado, siyempre, the academic space cannot be used to destroy the same academic space. What does that mean? If you're using the academic space to overthrow the order that grants the academic space, then you have an issue.
Illegitimate yung gobyerno, di ba? If they kung mapaniil yung gobyerno, ayun sa katekismo, kung mapaniil yung gobyerno, merong karapatan ng mamamayan na tumuto. Alam naman bumayag tayo doon, di ba?
Pero syempre, I will have to remove my lawyer hat. No, right now kasi I'm using my lawyer hat, I have to speak in the context of the law. So all I'm saying is, assuming everything is regular, there's no revolutionary government that took over this country, the state will have the limitations of academic freedom is when the academic freedom is used to overthrow the academic space. Yun dun siya. Because the academic space has to be protected from itself. It's possible that it can self-destruct, Pwede kang magtayo ng institusyon nga na ang advokasya gumawa ng civil war para mawalan ng lahat ng institutions at magtayo ng isang fascist government na isa lang ang totoo. That cannot be allowed to happen.
But a library doesn't do anything. It is a repository.
Yes. Yun nga Iba yan. But when I speak of schools, which is our problem now, kung pinapasok nila yung schools, pagkatapos kung ano-ano pinagbabawal, syempre, tatanungin muna natin, is that reasonable or not? In this context, obviously it's not reasonable. Kasi libro lang naman yan Ano ba naman yung libro? Kung siguro, hypothetically, kung tinuturo nila yung libro in a class on how to throw bombs and how to overthrow the government, that is a problem. But we don't have that. I don't think we'll ever have that kind of institution.
Gusto ko magbahagi bilang basic education tsaka private school at gusto ko ng reaction ni Chancellor at ni Marvin, ni Attorney Marvin. Meron kami ginawa recently in the past few years nung face-to-face pa na parang kaming nung bandang gitnang September sa recess namin, meron kami tinatawag na EDSA Walk doon sa aming Ateneo Junior High School. Junior High School to May EDSA Walk kami. At may reenactment doon ng EDSA sa EDSA Walk na may mga two-dimensional na mga tangke at may mga at yung mga ibang teachers I was wearing this during recess lang. And then may video yon at na-post sa aming ang reaction ng ibang mga ilang magulang doon ay what in the world? Bakit ginagawa yan? Ganyan-ganyan. Kami naman, we were comforted by the fact na memo naman yun ng aming presidente. That was the time na parang may debate sa libingan ng mga bayani or parang ganoon So merong statement doon ng aming presidente na sana buhayin natin itong mga kwentong ito at lahat. And we thought we were pursuing something that is a directive ng isang private institution So doon naman kami nakakahanap ng comfort doon sa pakikinig dun sa ganung mga direktiba. So how should we so tama po ba? Yun po ba ay tahasang pakikipaglaban o pagbubuwag ng kung ano mang isinusulong. So pero basic education din po kami. Hindi kami college So pwede ko na itanong ngayon kasi several years ago na mga 5 taon na nakararaan o 4 na taon. So ano po ba? Nasaan po ang mali at tama doon sa mga sa kwento kong 'yon?
These are day-to-day. I have children kasi who are now in high school, Jesuit of course, and they ask the questions, So kanina nga gusto kong banggitin nga, yes, we cannot teach how to make bombs and all of that, but I think ELAC is more scared about the power of ideas, that young people are asking, and we were asking those questions in 1986 and 85 as well. Was civil disobedience an option? It was not as simple as we like to think. Remember, at that time we were divided as well. There were people who said boycott the elections. That was the only way left. No? There are others that participate. No? And then in the end, of course, everyone joined forces there. Was it wrong for us to have taught to our students that you will have to make decisions? No? We're not telling you to boycott. We're not telling you either to vote. But when the time came, when push came to shove, we are going out to EDSA. Right? Was that wrong? I think no one will disagree with that. Although that's becoming an issue now, that we were wrong, no? That this was a Dilawan thing and all of that. No? And again, if we do not have the history books, we do not have our repositories here of what happened, people will get away with revisionist history, because I am hearing that sa masa. Nakakatakot. No? Naniloko lang Pilipinas at the time. Si Marcos should not have been ousted and all of that. And that is why the library is so important. You need to have all of that, and that young people will be able to read, and that professors are able to dialogue with them, and then they can make their decision. You pull the things out, pull the books out, and you are depriving them of the grounds for which they can argue and then make a decision.
Chancellor, I don't know if you are privy to the the discussions, pero meron bang steps na gagawin yung, we talked about this din nung lumabas yung anti-terrorism law with the Senator Risa. Meron bang steps na gagawin, kunyari yung state universities or coalition of librarians in relation to this book banning, or are you aware or not, you're not aware?
Tuloy pa rin yung may University Council meeting kanina sa UP Diliman, and there will be a statement. Kaming mga matanda, the professors emeriti are coming up with a statement, no? So to show that old people still have their say. I think it will snowball, no? But I don't know what it will produce. No? I think we're at that point naman na just to get people to think about the issues.
Kasi yung anti-terrorism bill, they brought it to the Supreme Court. Is this something that they are thinking, or it's not something that can be done, or
those cases, right? Attorney Marvin, are still pending. No? There are quite a few cases that were challenged. I was a signatory to one of the. I don't know how many cases were filed.
But one challenge is here in this case is I haven't seen the memo. I don't know if anybody has seen the memo. Kasi kailangan yung memo para i-challenge siya eh. This is one thing I do not like about this government. I'm sorry ha. Pag medyo controversial yung memo, they do not release it immediately. So if there are some lawyers who are waiting to file the case against that memo in the Supreme Court, they cannot act immediately. Andun na kaagad yung mga tao. They're implementing it immediately. Kaya ang hirap gumalaw. Kasi ganun ang style nila eh. Gagalaw na muna yung mga tao, sa kanila papakita yung memo. But I think the moment they release that, dapat yan patigilan. I think that would violate the academic freedom of these schools.
You are right. Everyone keeps referring to the memo, but I have to admit, I have not seen in toto. No? They quote from it, but I don't know if it's an actual quote or they're just citing what seems to be in there. Sige, let's cooperate there. I'll try to get the copies and have it sent to you as well.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Sir Ron, Sir Chancellor, yung tanong ko kanina, is this in the, meron po ba kayo nakikitang invisible hand na is ROTC the end goal, or is something, or is something more at afoot, or ito lang ba ay tungkol sa state universities and colleges, or pero yung sinabi nyo kanina about the art school, Attorney Marvin, siguro art school should assert their academic freedom, and then do you think, Chancellor, this is about state universities only, or bakit yung eskwelahan ng inaano nila kasama ng library?
It's hard to say, because I had to look at what you put there. ELCAC, no? God, sounds so awful. ELCAC. ELCAC has been known, they
NTF
foot
ELCAC.
and mouth disease all the time, right? Oh, I don't want to use the other one, but they don't think they're, and so I have a feeling this is, I don't think there's a conspiracy here. Yeah, and when you think about it, this is the worst thing for them to do at this point. No, na, ano, yung, it's not good for their candidates, no, because now we can say, this is what we're going to get more of this if you elect certain people, right? This is a taste of what's to come, no? And you would think that they would behave themselves, no? At least for this period, no? Pero hindi
yeah. It's in the guise of, ako simple lang ako mag-isip para matigil yan. Dapat ganyan. Ganun yan I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I don't think it's sophisticated. I think it's actually the opposite. It's too simplistic. And
yes.
Although, we can never tell, di ba?
But we have to speak out, though. Yeah. Is it to intimidate us as well?
Yes. Yeah, kasi ang eskwelahan pwedeng maging,
but I don't think the students are
ibang kandidato, di ba?
Yeah.
Sa akin parang slippery slope to you know. Pag lumusod sila dito, then they'll go to the next step. Maybe they'll try it with UP, I don't know. And then they'll try it with private schools. Unti-unti lang, di ba? It's the state university, itong mga these universities that were subjected to this, Cordillera lang, konti lang naman yan.
Nasa north.
Wala makapag-file ng kaso, kaya lusot. So they'll try the next steps, you know, they'll try to go to the Visayas, Mindanao, etc. So, kaya lang sabi ko nga, wala yung memo, hindi mahanap Parang nakatago.
Hanapin natin.
Kanina sa simula ng show natin, nung I was just introducing the topic, I already mentioned some broad stroke questions na gusto ko itanong ngayon. Sabi ko, ano ba ito? Academic freedom, sino bang may-ari nito? So, the answer to that question, sinong may-ari nito ay yung mga mag-aaral, di ba? Academic freedom, technically. Kasi mahirap din na sabihin natin may-ari nito ay yung presidente o yung presidente ng Pamantasan o yung chancellor. Pero when you say academic freedom, it's really lahat ng iba pa nakatiin sa mga mag-aaral at iniingatan yung kanilang pag-aaring academic freedom. Ganun po ba yan? Tama po ba yung aking palagay? Yeah.
Sa akin, I think it's both the students and the teachers. Kasi the teachers, although they teach, they still do research and they publish what they find out, which is very important for human knowledge.
Yes.
If you start doing this, if the government starts saying, merong mga topic na wag niyong gagawin kasi ipupurge namin yan, you're telling the teachers, wag na kayong magtanong Kung magtatanong kayo, doon kayo sa hindi troublemaker, quote-unquote, hindi troublemaker na topics. Kasi pag troublemaker na topics, you will purge your publication. That's what they're saying. Which is, of course, it's against the Constitution. That's against academic freedom. The very essence of academic freedom is to ask those questions, even if the questions will be troublesome. Diba?
Pag binayos yun, yung criminal offense?
Under the law, wala.
Academic freedom.
You're just asking.
Right now, there's none.
There's none. The anti-subversive law is repealed. Walang bawal sa ganun.
On the other hand, Attorney Marvin, ano naman yung ikakaso mo dun sa mga nagkukos niyan ng pag-curtail ng ating academic freedom?
Prohibition. There's a remedy in law called certiorari prohibition. It's a remedy against a government agency when it's doing something which it should not be doing to protect the rights of the individual or
citizens.
Citizens. Yeah. There's such a remedy called prohibition. We can stop them, and we can declare this CHED memo once we find it to be null and void para hindi na ma-implement.
Last technical question from my end. Di ko alam kung may last question. Bakit sabi mo naghihintay ka lang na may private school na tamaan ito at talagang kakasuhan sila ng mga private school na ito? Bakit hindi ba pwedeng gawin yan samantala ngayong hindi pa private school at state universities? At gusto ko maintindihan yung technicality nga.
May technicality kasi na only the person who is affected by a law can bring a case against it. In general, kung magdidemanda ka kahit sino, kailangan ikaw yung apektado. Pag hindi ka apektado, wala kang standing na tawag. You don't have a standing to file the case. Although itong state universities, etc., you can say you're filing a case as a taxpayer, and it's possible. Kaya lang hindi ganoon ka direct na
parang long shot, no?
Long shot, no? Kumbaga kasi syempre kung magkakaso ka, dapat sana medyo sa first hurdle, ang unang hurdle palagi ng kaso is standing kapag nag-file ka kasi na wala kang maliwanag na standing, dismiss ka kaagad. Hindi na pa sasagutin yung kabila. Nakakahiya naman yun, di ba?
So, yung violation ng Constitution, sino ang may karapatan na
the persons directly affected.
Kahit na.
No, it has to be the persons directly affected. Now, a taxpayer can sue, kaya lang medyo mahirap yung hurdle na yon. Masyadong stringent if you bring a taxpayer suit.
Hindi siya kasong People of the Philippines versus
People of the Philippines, pag criminal case lang. Criminal case lang yan.
So umabot na po tayo sa dulo ng ating isang oras na nandito. Pero baka meron pang hindi nasisimot doon sa toothpaste ng ating mga gustong ibahagi. Toothpaste talaga. Baka may gustong sabihin.
Maraming mga tanong pa lang.
Oo, init pala nitong topic na to, Sir Jovi. Ano ba?
Siguro kailangan talagang anuhin na ng mga akademiko at ng mga abogado. Kasi katulad ng si Chancellor, dahil bilang anthropologist and historian, alam niya yung kailangan na din yung social history, yung history ng konsepto ng batas. Kailangan na tong Chancellor, ikaw you said na emeritus ka na. Katulad ni Justice Carpio, no? Meron siyang advokasya hanggang sa kamatayan na niya. Baka this is something that you can take up or whatever. Ano ang final words po ninyo, dahil you must have suffered through this as Chancellor, and UP has always been the vanguard of academic freedom, but not only academic freedom.
Well, it not just as Chancellor. No? Remember, I entered UP right at the cusp of the 70s and all. So nakita ko yung nangyari sa under martial law, no? Academic freedom under assault. And then all throughout my professional life, it was dealing with, I worked in health programs. No? It was dealing always with the problem of academic freedom, that medical students could not learn what they needed to learn about medical neutrality and all of this. It was one censorship after another. And that's why when I became Chancellor, medyo may vengeance dito na I'm going to make up for all those lost years. No? And I think I did a pretty good job there. Pero hindi pa tapos, no? And this is what's disturbing me, na I hope the worst is not to come yet. I have fears that the worst is yet to come. And you know why, right?
Predicting a second Trump term presidency. So the worst is not. We haven't seen the worst yet. So
we haven't seen the worst yet. It's
sorry, Chancellor. Chancellor, paki-articulate mo nga yung ayaw mong sabihin. What are you afraid of? Anong possibilities?
When you have the possibility, our choice will be, when you have the possibility that someone who fakes his academic credentials will become our president, do you expect him to respect academic institutions?
Yeah. I guess
when he thinks that he
at the heart of the
and his sister.
I think people should realize that this question is not an esoteric question. Itong book banning ay hindi esoteric question. It's not for bibliophiles. It's not.
There's it's a respect, it's a love of learning, which this and other candidate and the current president have no love for. It's very clear, the current president. And the other one has no love of learning either. Right? That's what's so scary.
Attorney Marvin.
Lord, such an honor to have you here.
Books are extensions of our thought. In fact, sabi ko, this is corpus of our thoughts. yung gumawa niyan ng mga libro na yan, hindi basta ginawa. Mahirap gumawa ng libro. I know, I have a publishing company. Pagkatapos isulat, ano pang gagawin namin para malabas yan sa masa, sa mga tao. If they ban books, if they purge certain books, they actually purge human thought. They control human thought. And that's the last space that we'll have to exercise our freedom. So we have to protect this thing. We have to protect our freedom to read books, to find these books in the library. That's very important. Importante yung mga libro natin, hindi na magalaw. Palagay mo na, sige, ito mga sinasabi. But people will have the power to discern for themselves what is good and what is bad. We should not take that away from people. Let them decide. Di ba? Kaya nga nag-aaral, di ba? Para malaman mo kung ano yung logical at hindi logical, kung ano yung may sustansya at saka wala. That's why we should protect these books.
Right. Thank you, Marvin. Awesome.
And in that note, napakainit naman ito. Parang dami ko i-debrief sa sarili ko after this. Kausapin ko yung mga tuta ko at aso. Kumusta na kayo? Yes, thank you very much. This is very enriching and very provocative afternoon. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagpapaunlak. Attorney Marvin Aceron at former Chancellor Mike Tan. Maraming salamat po sa inyong sa inyong pagbabahagi ng inyong mga palagay at sarili dito sa programa natin para sa aming mga tagapakinig. So ulitin po.
Mukhang hindi pa tapos.
Oo nga.
Pero nga po. Next year. Next month.
Last year, red tagging lang, di ba? Ngayon, parang mas seryoso ito. Talagang doon na talaga sa pinakabaluarte ng karunungan ang inaatake. So yun po, sana po samahan niyo uli kami sa aming susunod na palatuntunan sa ika-15 ng Nobyembre at sa isa na namang talakayan, mga magaan na pinabibigat namin, mga mabigat na pinagagaan namin dito sa Lundagin Mo, Beybeh. Salamat po sa inyo, Beybeh. Hanggang sa muli. Sir Jovi, Chancellor, Attorney, salamat po.
Salamat. Thank you.
Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin mo, Beybeh! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo! Radyo-katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan,